is Adam Carmen, and recently I graduated from a 4-year university with my bachelor's degree. And one of the first steps that I needed to take before I was accepted back in 2019 was to take the SAT, formerly known as the Scholastic Aptitude Test. According to Princeton Review, the purpose of the SAT is to measure a high school student's readiness for college and to provide colleges with a single data point that they can use to test all of the students who are hoping to apply to their program. I would like to put forward the idea that this system of application and of acceptance is not necessarily the most beneficial or fair to all students hoping to get into colleges. I'd like to discuss with you today the idea that the SAT should not be considered at all for college admissions, or at least that its role should be reduced. I believe that it harms diversity in our colleges. I believe that it's not a good metric of college students and of their readiness. And I think that it turns away applicants who have lower than average scores they believe are non-desirable, or no score at all because they simply have not taken the SAT or one of its counterparts. I would also like to discuss the solutions that I believe would be effective in remedying this problem. So first, I would like to talk about how the SAT harms diversity. In a student body, diversity is more than just a representation of people with surface-level differences. In a college environment, it brings a much-needed dynamic of varying interpretations, varying values, varying views and opinions and worldviews, and also that it brings in different cultural ideals that help to grow and expand the student body. Colleges requiring test scores turn away many of these underrepresented applicants. And according to Thomas Rocan, the former president of Ithaca College, we were not seeing applicants from some potential students who would thrive in our academic environment, purely on the basis of fear that their test scores were too low and that they wouldn't get accepted. The second thing I would like to talk about today is the fact that the SAT just is simply not an efficient metric of college aptitude or of readiness, and also that it does turn away applicants with lower scores that they believe are non-desirable, or that they have not taken the SAT yet. According to a study by the National Association for College Admissions Counseling, when a test optional policy is adopted, it does seem to help diversity. Not only is there an increase in applications from potential college students, but an increase in the number of racial minorities, of women, and of low-income students among the student body. Jane L. McEntry cites a popular argument for removing the SAT from the application process, saying that the SAT and ACT do not measure aptitude or achievement, simply that they just measure how well a particular student studied on the test. This may be quite true, as the same study I cited earlier from that National Admissions Counseling Association said that non-submitters tend to graduate at the same rate as people who did happen to submit their tests, which means that the SAT and ACT really were not great metrics for how well or how successful these students would be during their time in college. The third thing I would like to talk about today are some of the solutions to this problem. On a large scale, the solution to me would seem to be to stop having SATs be considered for students who are hoping to get into schools. And also, having the admissions departments of these schools having no bias for students who choose not to submit their SATs. On a local scale, it means that colleges begin to expand their admissions departments to allow for a potential interview-dependent system, where students can apply with a video interview or a recording of themselves or an in-person interview, where they explain the qualities that make them good students, their strengths, their weaknesses, their passions, their desires, and potentially even the educational adversity they had to survive on their path to get to where they are today as a potential college applicant. And also how you, the audience, can be involved. You could potentially write a letter to a school you plan to attend in the future. You could write a letter to the school that is your alma mater, or you could write a letter to a school that you potentially donate to on a regular basis. And you could request their admissions department review this potential plan for college acceptance, and that they would potentially even drop the SAT from their considerations for who would be good students in their system. College Express recommends letters or emails in this sort of fashion be formal, be concise, be polite, and professional so that they garner the attention of the admissions department while also not taking up too much of their time, because they also have to worry about getting college students accepted. Perhaps even with enough of these letters to enough of these colleges, the admissions departments may see the promise of a system like this that does away with the SAT and instead sees students as what they are, promising individuals who may not take tests very well, but are excellent at what they know and would be great in the college's system. So I personally believe, in conclusion, that the SAT does in fact harm diversity in our schools, and it turns away applications with no scores or scores that they believe to be undesirable or even lower than average. The solution to me seems to be simple: to have colleges stop accepting scores and to stop accepting based solely on the SAT, or giving it such a heavy consideration. Because the SAT only appears to be keeping promising and intelligent individuals from being successful in college systems, it should no longer be considered in the acceptance of students by admissions departments across the United States. Once our schools remove this antiquated and unfair admissions process, our universities have a greater opportunity to offer success and quality educations to students with incredible potential and incredible intelligence, whether or not they take the SAT.